6 dopey Dems try to wiggle out of a seditious mistake. Let's check it out. Welcome to Rob Schmitt Tonight. Sedition, defined as conduct or speech inciting people to rebel against the authority of a state or monarch. The punishment for this crime for most Americans would be fines, maybe a stretch in jail. But for military members, it's far more severe, including death, potentially. And that is not a threat to the 6 members of Congress that used to be in the military or in intelligence, who made a video asking members of the military to ignore orders from the president recently. It is merely an indication of just how serious sedition is considered in this country, an indication of just how absurd what these former military intelligence members of Congress did last week. Those are the 6, when they decided to release a video telling our American military that they are obligated to refuse orders from our Republican president if Democrats believe those orders are illegal.
We know you are under enormous stress and pressure right now.
Americans trust their military.
But that trust is at risk. This administration is pitting our uniformed military
And intelligence community professionals
against American citizens. Our laws are clear. You can refuse illegal orders.
You can refuse illegal orders.
You must refuse illegal orders.
Bottom-feeding politicians right there. As bad as it gets. For years, Democrats have been devising ways to reduce or marginalize the power of Donald Trump in Washington. They hate him so much. Right out of the gate, 2017, he was hit with Russia collusion, diminishing his incredible victory, intended to paint him as an illegitimate leader. They've abused our courts and shopped partisan judges to reduce Trump's effectiveness and power as well, tie him up in court, tie his administration up in court. And now they've arrived at their latest scam, which is burning some of their credibility to manufacture a fear of illegal orders being given to the military with an over-dramatized PSA. It'll fool the mindless masses into believing Trump is totally unhinged and knock a point or two off his approval rating. The entire thing was designed as a psyop to make you believe that there's this massive threat to the country and they're just here trying to protect you. That's how this video was dreamed up, not out of any serious concern for what's happening in Washington, but just a desperation for some kind of way to hit the president yet again, which is what they do and what they've done for the last 10 years. These are not 6 heroes protecting the country from a tyrant. They are petty partisan clowns sitting in rooms with political actuaries, calculating the net gain from doing something as ridiculous as this. Over the weekend, 3 of them couldn't answer a very basic question. What illegal orders has Trump even given to elicit enough fear to inspire a video like the one that they produced?
Do you believe President Trump has issued any illegal orders?
To my knowledge, I am not aware of things that are illegal.
Threats that he's made to use our military in an unlawful way.
Specifically what?
Well, send troops into Chicago, send troops into polling stations, kill terrorists' families, arrest and execute.
Are you hearing that there are unlawful orders being given?
Well, we're hearing the same thing that you are. The administration hasn't shared much information with us.
Yeah, they have dug a serious hole here. They really have. And now they're trying to figure out a way to worm out of that hole. Most of them have started crying victim over Trump's tweet stating that seditious behavior is punishable by death. Trump reacting just the way you would imagine. Relieving themselves of all responsibility for starting this chaos with an outrageous and irresponsible video that's beyond irresponsible, really, really bad, and then vilifying the president for simply reacting to it.
I said something that was pretty simple and non-controversial. And in response to that, Donald Trump said I should be executed. I should be hanged. I should be prosecuted.
Mark Kelly's perspective on this. Here was Congressman Jason Crow, another of the 6.
It's very disturbing stuff when you have the president of the United States threatening to execute and to hang and to arrest using this rhetoric. People listen to it. We've seen before a pattern of insightful, dangerous rhetoric being used by the president and then people acting on that. You know, I lived through and experienced January 6th, a very similar dynamic. He's been doing this for years.
You knew at some point somebody was going to bring up January 6th, right? The most over-exaggerated, overused political device in modern politics. Their undeserved rage continues this week with Secretary Hegseth's investigation into Senator Kelly, a retired Navy captain, saying federal laws prohibit actions intended to interfere with the loyalty, morale, or good order and discipline of the armed forces, which is exactly what this was. These people decided to fiddle with the morale and dedication of our military to the commander-in-chief just to score some political points. They played a very dangerous and careless game with some of the most vital parts of our government, behaving in ways that countries, our adversaries would behave, trying to deceive our military, trying to make them less loyal to the president. This is the type of behavior that would be considered seditious. It's as simple as that. This is the type of thing that an adversary would try to do to our military, to try and lower its loyalty, lower its morale. And now they're dealing with an FBI investigation into them while posing as victims of a weaponized government. Rick Grenell is Trump's envoy for special missions and joins us tonight. What do you see when you hear them on the Sunday shows trying to explain their way out of this hole? What did you see?
Look, what I saw was a bunch of hypocrites because they've spent years telling us that Republicans were undermining democracy. Remember that whole phrase, undermining democracy. They went after us saying you're undermining democracy when you question things. Here is a video of 6 individuals who are proudly undermining democracy. They are telling people that they must, that was one of the words used, you must refuse these orders. Now, what is clear is that the Democrats have decided that they get to play by a whole different set of rules. Remember, this is the party that created sanctuary cities. Sanctuary cities is this idea that you have a city that gets to ignore federal law, you get to do whatever you want, you get to break law, and there's no punishment. Now we're going to the point where politicians are actually calling upon the intelligence community and the bureaucracy to undermine the duly elected president, President Trump. This is an attack on our democracy from politicians who took an oath that they would defend the Constitution and they would defend democracy. These people are now trolling the bureaucracy for people who are political, partisan, and looking for people to stand up and undermine. Remember, Rob, too, this was how the whole Russian collusion hoax started back in 2016, before President Trump even became the president. After he won, even a little bit before, they were trying to go after him and use the weaponry of government. The Democrats love to use government for partisan purposes. These 6 should be punished for doing this. They outed themselves as undermining democracy. This is a very serious video, a very serious attack on our democracy.
And I think that some of them realize how badly they've stepped in it. And I think it all just comes out of the desperation to create. They're trying to just create turmoil. They're trying to create this idea that the president is unhinged. He can't be trusted. It's all for political, political usage. That's all what it is. You can see by just the people that did it and the way that they said it. It was all very produced in a way that was very political.
Same backdrop.
Yeah. And I think also the funniest thing is that, I mean, how do you determine what's an illegal order? Because we saw just in the last few days, we've watched some Democrats say that the bombings on these drug boats is illegal, and then you see other people in the media say that they're not, that the president has the latitude to. I remember Scarborough said the other morning the president has the latitude to do that. They can't even agree on what an illegal order is, but they're demanding that. So what are they demanding then? That if we think something might be illegal, that you shouldn't listen to the president?
Look, I think what they're really doing is all for partisan purposes. There's no question that what they're trying to do is win political points. And I think you said it best in the beginning. They're just trying to mess up President Trump. They're trying to mess with him yet again. And we need to call it out. We need to be very clear that these 6 individuals in this video are undermining our democracy.
Yeah, well said. want to talk a little bit before I let you go about Russia and Ukraine. The president posting on Truth Social this week, the original 28-point peace plan, which was drafted by the United States, has been fine-tuned with additional input from both sides. There are only a few remaining points of disagreement. Do you see this as? I mean, it's amazing to think how far apart these two sides are, and that they're getting pushed together. Is this possibly going to happen?
Well, I think if it's going to happen, it's going to happen under President Trump. There's no question that he is the one that can bring these two sides together. This is a very difficult issue. Trying to get a ceasefire, I think, should be the goal. Permanent peace is really difficult. But trying to break this chain. Remember, President Trump is frustrated that the hole was so deep that Joe Biden got us into. Joe Biden wasn't even speaking to the Russians, wouldn't speak to Putin. We had years of literally just a war, a massive war that we were funding, thousands of lives that were lost, all because we had politicians that refused to talk to each other. Yeah. Talking is a tactic, and thank God we got President Trump who believes in talking, and he's pushing these two sides together. I think there's a little hope.
Yeah, I mean, it seems like it from something that just seemed like there's no way. Just a couple weeks ago, you saw how far apart they were. Rick Grenell, thanks so much. Good to see you.
Thanks, Rob.
All right, now to President Trump's move to end protections for Somali refugees after the full extent of these Somali fraud rings has been exposed in yet another story about what they have been able to accomplish coming into this country and then scamming us after arriving. We've been told by Ilhan Omar that her fellow Somali refugees are the backbone of this country. It's a statement that's so flatly ridiculous, it could only come from somebody like Ilhan Omar. They can pump us full of politically correct virtue all day, but this country has imported a massive problem from East Africa, and we can no longer refuse to call it out of fear of being called racist. These non-English speaking, non-assimilating refugees are a massive drain on this society, maybe more so than any other faction, carving out their own territory inside our country, largely in the city of Minneapolis, and then mimicking their lives back home, using the generous American welfare system of support. As many as 40% of their population refuses to work. And they do this, they come here and they jump on the dole while also robbing us blind at the same time, perpetuating scams and exploiting our systems aimed at helping the elderly, the sick, the needy, kids with autism. A Medicaid scam, Somali gangs manipulating autism numbers to such an extent the federal funding shot up from $3 million to $400 million in just 5 years in the state of Minnesota. This was the story that inspired Trump to end temporary protected status for Somalians in this country, a story this egregious, which Ilhan Omar responded to that threat without even attempting to deny the actual story at hand. Take a listen.
We are sick and tired of the president waking up one day and deciding to put forth falsehoods and demonize whole communities. Somalis have always seen themselves as a fabric of this nation. We are not going to allow anybody to make us feel less Minnesotan or less American.
Another scam where gangs swiped $250 million in COVID funding through a nonprofit called Feed Our Future, designed to feed children. Another fraud scheme based on the housing stabilization services that was supposed to help find and maintain homes for people with disabilities and the elderly. The program just began in 2020. The original cost to taxpayers $2.5 million. The next year, it paid out $21 million. Then it doubles again to 42. Then it more than doubles by 2024 to $104 million in claims paid out. Once these gangs figured out where the money comes in, they just pump it. And not many people watching those kinds of programs, especially during COVID. The program was actually canceled this year because there was so much obvious fraud from these Somalian gangs. Some of those charged, you can see the names right there on the screen. Not much needs to be said. Politicians happy to ignore all of this, of course, especially Democrat politicians in the state of Minnesota. Somalians have become a very, very necessary voting bloc for them. and a very reliable one as well. Activist judges now coming to their aid as well. A judge in deep blue Hennepin County, Minnesota, overturning a jury's guilty fraud verdict in a case with defendant Abditi Fatah Youssef. Take a listen to this.
Youssef and his wife, Lol Ahmed, were charged with stealing $7.2 million of taxpayer money through Medicaid overbilling in a personal care assistant, or PCA, scam. The couple allegedly spent tens of thousands of the fraud money on luxury items for themselves. Despite the jury swiftly convicting Youssef, Judge Sarah West last week decided they got it wrong.
Yeah, the white liberal judge says the jury is wrong and overturns a case. Liz Collin is an investigative journalist in Minneapolis, and she joins us now. Liz, thanks for coming on. You did an investigation over the summer. A taxpayer-funded autism therapy center billed the state nearly $2 million. Neighboring businesses, your own investigation found the center was nearly always empty, right?
Yeah, Rob, you said it. This has been ongoing now for years in Minnesota, this Somali fraud. And this recent story we focused on was an autism center, which again has perpetuated millions of dollars in fraud. At this point, they're talking about multiple billions of dollars in fraud in the state of Minnesota. But this center, you go right up to the parking lot, it's empty. Inside, it's empty. I actually asked to take a tour when I stopped by, and she said, you know, there are no kids here until after school. Well, businesses are actually taking matters into their own hands here in Minnesota, setting up surveillance cameras. And you can see for weeks on end, there are no kids going in and out of this facility. This is in Burnsville, Minnesota. And then we went ahead and exposed this program, getting $2 million in taxpayer funds. But again, there is just so much of this. It's a huge spider web at this point, and so frustrating, I think, for the Minnesota taxpayer.
It's disgusting, and I mean it's surreal. What the issues and the problems that we bring into the country. I want to ask about this neighborhood, southeast side of Minneapolis. They call it Little Mogadishu. I haven't been there, but I mean, from what I've heard from those in the area is that this is almost like a self-contained little society. Largely, there's very little assimilation from the residents of it. This is not the immigration we know from the past, where people come here and they want to be American. This is, let's set up our old country right here and just stay insulated from the outside world. Is that what you've found? And what percentage of these people are learning the language? Because you see political rallies and they're speaking in the native tongue. They're not speaking English.
Actually, that was just recently. Minneapolis Mayor Jacob Frey speaking in Somalian to his constituents. But anywhere between 80 and 100,000 Somalis, they say, in Minnesota, primarily there in Hennepin County in Minneapolis. You're right, though, several mosques there, businesses, they kind of do stick together. You spoke on this Feeding Our Future fraud. We had the 78th defendant connected to that fraud, just charged yesterday, or actually sentenced yesterday, to 10 years in prison. This is a young man, and that's what I'm hearing through a lot of my sources, that many of these people are very young. They'll do 5 or 10 years in prison. In that time, they'll funnel millions of dollars overseas. This money has gone to Kenya. This money has gone to Somalia. They'll get out of prison in a few years, and it's not too bad to have something set up back home for them when they get out. And that's what they're looking at now. Do we need, stronger sentencing against this? Because again, it is just so pervasive that they don't even seem to be anywhere near getting a handle on this in Minnesota at this point. This is $47 million alone in the Feeding Our Future scandal. They were serving 18 million meals at 30 distribution sites across Minnesota. The math never adds up.
I imagine that there's not a lot of an appetite to go after this kind of fraud from Democrat politicians in that state, because that is a very important voting bloc that you don't want to attack.
Absolutely. You had the mainstream media, many of the Democratic politicians here in Minnesota quickly jump on camera, hold several press conferences over the last few days attacking President Trump, of course, and even the city of Minneapolis setting up basically a hotline if you need help as a Somali resident. And they're doing everything they can, to not acknowledge essentially what is right in front of them. These adult daycares, medical transportation companies, housing services, you name it, basically every kind of medical aid. And the problem is also that a lot of these people who actually need some of these services are now not getting them because of this pervasive fraud.
Yeah, well, nobody wants to talk about that, because at the end of the day, Somalian refugees make our country stronger. That's the message we're supposed to believe. That's the only message that matters. Liz, Collin, great reporting. Thank you so much for joining us. We appreciate it.
Thanks, Rob.
Is this Maduro's last dance? A Florida congresswoman this week said we are about to go in to Venezuela. We're going to talk about that comment with Congressman Carlos Gimenez. It's coming up next.
Charlie was the best of America, and the monster who attacked him was attacking our whole country.
Before Charlie Kirk died, he issued a stark warning of terrifying dangers ahead in a new book, Pagan Threat, authored by Pastor Lucas Miles. Charlie said Pagan Threat could save America and that you must read it. Get Pagan Threat free with Newsmax's special offer. Plus, get Dick Morse's new book, The Real Charlie Kirk. 2 great books with our free offer today.
Harry and David is small batch, gourmet, and delicious. So, of course, they run out fast. Celebrate the joy of giving with hand-picked holiday delights from Harry and David. Iconically American, delicious traditions made to share. Order now before they're gone.
Drop is finally here. Drop delivers the weight loss benefits of GLP-1 injections in easy-to-use oral drops, no needles.
That's right. The 2 big drawbacks with weight loss injections are high costs and weekly injections. Drop is flavorless and odorless, so you can just add it to water or your favorite beverage. Drop offers other advantages over injections too. With Drop, you can personalize your dosage based on your weight loss goals.
And because you add Drop to any liquid, there's no concern about injection site infections, bruising, or dosage confusion.
Drop is the easier, safer, cost-effective alternative to help you achieve your weight loss goals without the needles.
Can't find it anywhere? The Wellness Company has it. No consultation needed. Simply order online and use promo code SLIM to save $100. Visit dropthepounds.com/slim. That's promo code SLIM at dropthepounds.com/slim.
It's about political points.
Deserve better fiscal
It's terrible. Politics seeps into everything.
What do you mean? Talk about climate change or the economy or, of course, elections.
You can't find out what we should really expect to happen.
But of course you can.
Go to IBKR's Forecast Trader.
Put your money where your mouth is.
This shirt is a must-have in your closet. I was tired of floppy collars, so I got this shirt I saw on TV. The brand is called Collars & Co. They make a regular stretchy golf shirt, but the top has a firm collar on it. No dry cleaning needed, and the collar stays stiff all day.
Buy 3, get 1 free this holiday only at collarsandgo.com.
My name's Mary. I've been playing the piano since I was 4 years old. Music is my life. There are 2 things in my life I'm not going to stop. Playing the piano and taking Balance of Nature. That's what I do.
Start your journey with Balance of Nature supplements. Get 35% off your first preferred set with free shipping as a new preferred customer by using discount code Newsmax.
Imagine what that looks like to the people being tortured in that country of Venezuela. Nicolas Maduro, they're continuing to beg for peace, trying to hold on to power in a country he has destroyed. Congresswoman Maria Salazar from Florida this week saying we're about to go in to Venezuela, indicating the United States is going in and indicating it's looking like a regime change, with oil being a key reason why she believes it's happening. We don't know that to be true at all, by the way. Operation Southern Spear in the Caribbean is in full force, and Reuters has sources telling them a new phase is about to begin. Trump has reportedly okayed covert CIA action within Venezuela ahead of a potential land strike. That was another headline from the last couple of weeks. U.S. airlines canceling flights to the country following recent FAA warnings to avoid the airspace as well. So there's a lot of indications something might happen here, but nothing's happened so far. It appears the president and Maduro are going to be speaking soon, though, as the administration hopes to convince Maduro to just step down and leave the country before it gets too messy. Axios reporting, though, that part of the challenge of persuading Maduro to leave is that his Cuban handlers might execute him if he yields to American pressure and just gives up and runs away. Florida Congressman Carlos Gimenez sits on the House Armed Services Committee, and he joins us now. Sir, do you have any indication that Maria Salazar is accurate when she says that we're going in any time now?
I haven't had any information of that kind that we're going in. I don't think the only people that knows really what's going to happen is the President of the United States, probably the Secretary of State, and probably the Secretary of Defense. Outside of that, everybody else is, I believe, is speculating.
Yeah, you're a Cuban-American congressman. I'm sure you have a very healthy disdain for Maduro, as do I, and as do I think most people that love freedom and capitalism. I mean, these dictators, these socialist communist dictators that have destroyed their country, dancing here, trying to beg to be able to hold on to power in a nation he's destroyed. It's just disgusting to see that. And Cuba would fall, I believe, next is what we've been told. If Venezuela falls, Cuba falls next. So there's a lot of great things that would happen if Maduro were dead, but that doesn't necessarily mean the United States should be looking at regime change, does it?
Well, look, what happened a year ago, the Venezuelan people basically threw Maduro out, and he has refused to leave. And so he lost a democratic elections to Maria Corina and Edmundo Gonzalez, and they are in waiting. The legitimate government is in waiting. We've suffered through 25 years of Chavez and Maduro. They've destroyed the country. They're a communist, they are a communist regime, but also, worse than that, Nicolas Maduro is the head of the Cartel de los Soles, which has been named a foreign terrorist organization.
Yeah.
He has been directly responsible for the deaths of tens of thousands, if not hundreds of thousands, of Americans, because Venezuela acts as the major, shipper of the drugs that enter into the United States, the poison that enters the United States, and has killed over 500,000 of us in the last 5 years. And so Nicolas Maduro is kind of an interesting case. And so the faster he leaves, the faster it'll be better for everybody, including the United States of America.
It's hard to imagine this is really about drugs, though, and I know that's what the president maintains. But if our concern is drugs, then we'd be in Colombia and Mexico before Venezuela, is my understanding of this. So this feels to me like it's either about ending communism in Latin America, being a check on China, or it's about oil. What do you think this is really about?
Could be all the above. And it could be all three, stopping the flow of drugs. And I think that Venezuela would be the first target. And then over in Colombia, they have a legitimate, government. It's Gustavo Petro, but he is a narco terrorist himself.
Yeah.
And so we'll see what happens next year with Colombia. Obviously, Cuba has been a communist dictatorship, has run that government has run Cuba right into the ground. They can't even provide lights. And you know who else is interesting to look at is Mexico. Sheinbaum. She's been very sympathetic to all this, and she hasn't been able to control her northern border, where all these cartels are operating that, again, are responsible for the deaths of hundreds of thousands of Americans. The number one duty of any government is to protect its citizens. And because of drugs and fentanyl and everything like that, I think we have done a pitiful job of protecting our citizens. So for me, it's all the above. If Maduro goes, a lot of good things happen, and a lot of good things happen for the United States of America.
I got 10 seconds left. If you had to lay a bet on it, is Maduro still there summer of next year, or is he gone?
If I had to bet, you forced me to?
Yeah.
I think he's gone.
You think he's gone in a matter of months?
Yeah.
Okay. All right. Well, we'll see if that prediction holds. All right. Carlos Gimenez, a congressman from
Not that I know
South
anything.
Florida.
Not that I know anything. I just think it is. Okay.
All right. Congressman, thank you so much.
You forced me to bet. Okay.
I did. I appreciate it, sir. Thank you. All right. The most insufferable white liberal woman you would ever want to meet wants to be a congresswoman in Tennessee. We're going to break her down next. Everybody's reporting the same stories, the same spin. You turn the channel, it's always the same. But not us. We're different. We report the real news. No spin, just the facts. Turn to us, and you won't turn back.
Tune in to Rob Schmitt Tonight on Newsmax.
Growing up, kids face a lot of stress. Girls on the Run turns that stress into strength. Through fun activities, girls build confidence and learn life skills like managing emotions and resolving conflict. Doing this work for 2 decades has shown me that youth mental health is complex. Every girl is unique, and there isn't one simple fix. Let's come together to empower girls, support parents, and strengthen families.
Kevin Sorbo here, and I have an important message to share. The government needs more money, your money. If you owe the IRS back taxes, they can garnish your wages and levy your bank accounts. They can even seize your retirement or take your home. Don't let the IRS target you. Call the professionals at Tax Network USA. Their tax lawyers and enrolled agents are experts in powerful programs that may even help you eliminate your tax debt.
Call for a free consultation or visit tnusa.com.
A peace plan for Gaza. For the plan to advance, Hamas must disarm. Instead,
Tonight, terrifying images emerging from Gaza. Videos show Hamas-linked gunmen carrying out a public execution as they return to the streets.
Hamas on a rampage, executing Palestinians, bloody crackdown, spreading terror. For freedom, not terror, Hamas must go.
As we mark 250 years of America, Wounded Warrior Project honors those who serve. They've given us their commitment and sacrifice. We're here to give them a brighter future. Our programs and services help warriors access VA benefits, improve mental and physical health, and thrive for a lifetime. They've given us their best. Join us in supporting them through the next 250 years of strength and resilience. Visit woundedwarriorproject.org/USA250.
We realize some home maintenance jobs aren't worth the risk.
That's when we call a leaf filter to protect our gutters.
Leaf Filter's patented filter technology keeps debris out of your gutters for good, guaranteed. Call 833 Leaf Filter or visit leaffilter.com.
I'm a martial artist, a skydiver, a pilot, and all of them require your feet to work. Get up in the morning and it felt like I was standing on marbles on my heel. When I went into the Good Feet store, the fitting was personalized. It was all about me. You put in the arch supports and your day becomes better and the sun shines, the unicorns run by, and it's a good life. I'm Randy and that's my Good Feet story.
See for yourself with a free personalized arch support fitting at the Good Feet store.
I'm an artist and I'm in my studio. I'm hearing the ads about Relief Factor and I've got pain in my neck and it's getting worse and I'm thinking, well, I'm going to go ahead and order this. 2 weeks later and I've got much better range of motion. I'm able to carry these big canvases around. I'm just very, very grateful that I gave the product a try.
If pain is affecting your life, give Relief Factor a try. Call or go online. Get your 3-week quick start for only $19.95. Fight pain naturally with Relief Factor.
The absolute prototype of the obnoxious liberal white woman has been found in the state of Tennessee, and she wants to get into politics. Her name is Afton Ben. She is a spoiled white radical leftist who seems to hate this country and find herself on the insane side of every single issue. This is the woman that you meet and you just your head just explodes when she talks. Ben is running for the open 7th district seat, which is a red district, after the incumbent Republican Mark Green retired from that seat. So she's going for a red seat in Tennessee, and she is about as Looney Tunes as they can possibly get. She's hoping to just stir up a whole bunch of energy from everyone else that's Looney Tunes in Nashville, including all of those New York girls that moved there after COVID. Back in 2020, she went on a podcast to describe her disdain for the city of Nashville, which she is now in part running to represent because it's part of her district. Take a look.
I've been heavily involved with the Nashville mayoral race because I hate the city, I hate the bachelorettes, I hate the pedal taverns, I hate country music. I hate all of the things that make Nashville, apparently, an it city to the rest of the country, but I hate it.
Yeah, she hates America. She wants to sit in places like New York and LA and talk about how amazing Europe is and talk about how much America sucks. That's her idea of a good time. It gets even worse. Afton wrote an opinion piece in the Tennessee entitled, "Tennessee is a racist state and so is its legislature." Video resurfaced of her screaming. This is her trying to break into the governor's office to do some kind of a little stunt. And look at her dragging her out by her feet as she screams, or no, by her arms, I should say, from Governor Bill Lee's office back in 2019, screaming at the top of her lungs. Despite being insane, this young woman has outraised her Republican counterpart, Trump-backed Matt Van Epps, by almost 2-1, a seat that was previously won comfortably by Mark Green. Democrats pouring money into this race, potentially making it a lot tighter than it should be. Right now, polls indicate that the Republicans got, an 8-point lead in a very reliable red district. That is tighter than it should be. Brecca Stoll is a reporter from the Daily Wire, which is based in Nashville. Mercedes Schlapp joins us now as well. Ladies, good to have you here. Mercedes, how do you describe what Ashton Ben is? How would you describe her?
You know, she's kind of a mix, Rob, of like Kamala Harris, AOC, and then Karen. You know, like you can't make it up. This is the nightmare of what a Democrat woman represents and looks at, for example. So, you know, she goes after not only in terms of defunding the police, but she also hates marriage as an institution. She basically talks about, you know, if you have these white picket fence, then this is part of the patriarchy, and it's an oppressive structure that we should dismantle the nuclear family. I mean, so let's just add like the BLM factor to her as well. So this is like what I would call the ultimate nightmare of a Democrat woman running for office.
Brecca, how does a young woman get so brainwashed in our society? Because there's so many. I mean, I live in Manhattan, and that girl is everywhere. That crazy girl that is completely disillusioned and votes based on just suicidal empathy with every single in every single part of her mind. They have hyperactive empathy, sympathy. They have absolutely no self, preservation tactics inside of them. How does it happen to these women?
Well, Rob, with you being from Manhattan, you know about Mamdani and how he's become the face of the Democratic Party. Yeah. And I think with these types of candidates getting elected and having success in New York, it's not surprising to see Afton, running for Congress and taking a shot on the national stage. And she's essentially taking a play out of Mamdani's own playbook, where, she's run a very social media focused campaign. It's well backed, well funded, and she's promising ideas that she hasn't said how she's going to pay for.
It is amazing. That one picture that we just had up is just the perfect image of her. I mean, it's totally pissed off, spoiled, rotten little white girl living in a country that's given her so much and that she thinks sucks. That's the picture right there. Want to play one more moment here. I'm trying to pick which one I actually want to hear. Let's do the defund the police one, guys, if we can. That's take 6. Let's play that.
Do you still stand by those comments? And if not, is there anything you want to clarify?
I'm not going to engage in cable news talking points.
So you don't want to clarify whether you still believe that the police should be defunded?
Once again, I don't remember these tweets.
Mercy, just imagine her living in an inner city with no police by the 3rd day, what that city would look like.
Rob, just imagine that this woman cannot even answer a basic question with an MS Now reporter, for crying out loud, okay? Obviously, she does not know how to handle not even a simple interview. And when it comes to the fact that we've seen in these blue cities, in many cases, where there's been crime on the rise, where you've had gang members, illegal aliens, you need to put order in these cities. And she obviously is in line with where the Democrats have been for a long time, which is that of getting away from protecting and funding our law enforcement. And I think that, I just don't see how the people of Tennessee are going to back her up. I do think that Van Epp is going to take this race. But, oh, my goodness, it just shows the pedigree of these Democrats. I mean, it's getting worse and worse with every one of these elections.
Yeah, and it's, you know what it is? At the end of the day, it's a privilege. It's a privilege for a young woman to be this delusional and to have such nonsensical views and still be allowed to have an opinion and still be able to bark and run for Congress. What a privilege it is to live in this country that she hates so much. And if she had a brain, she'd understand that, but I fear she doesn't. Brecca Stoll and Mercedes Schlapp, good to see you, ladies. Thanks so much.
Thanks.
Remember the ShamWow guy? Do you remember this guy? He's running for Congress in Texas, and we're going to talk to him coming up next as he explains why.
Hi, it's Vince with ShamWow. You'll be saying wow every time you use this towel.
PCmatic's Black Friday and Cyber Monday deals are going on now. For a limited time, when you buy PCmatic Antivirus, you get PCmatic VPN for free. Protect up to 5 devices with our easy-to-use American-made security. You get award-winning antivirus, lightning-fast VPN for total privacy, plus limited US-based phone support. Get industry-leading protection that's built by Americans to protect America. Don't wait. Visit PCMedic.com now before it's too late.
The poverty is unimaginable. There are people who are struggling.
This is where she washes the dishes.
If you're ever going to allow your Christian faith to rise and to do something for God's chosen people, now is the time.
This is the home of Galina. She's 96 years old.
This is what she had to eat for today.
She has one pot with water and wheat.
My father was killed by the Nazis, and I was an orphan. I didn't know about God. But now, in the cold, hungry nights, I pray for food to the God I've never known. There are good people that love you.
You see the tears. Scripture says joy can come in the morning, and you can be the reason.
Right now in Ukraine, elderly Jews are trapped in unbearable poverty. If you will bless these hurting children of Israel, you will receive God's blessing in return. Your urgent gift today of $25 will help rush a survival food box filled with life-saving essentials. Call, scan, or go online now.
I'm not exaggerating when I tell you, I don't know how much longer she could have waited for us to come.
I can't even grow my food anymore. What will happen to me? I'm doomed to starve.
Tens of thousands of elderly Holocaust survivors in the former Soviet Union are living in extreme poverty, hungry, and forgotten. But through the International Fellowship of Christians and Jews, we can bring them hope.
Eggs. It's my favorite food. May you be blessed.
You say to them, we see you and we're here to help.
Please don't delay. Call, scan, or go online now.
You woke up with a sore throat and a low-grade fever. You know you are getting sick, so here's your choices. You can get sicker and miss work, try to see a doctor this week, or sit hours in a crowded waiting room at urgent care.
I have a smarter option for you. Open your medical emergency kit. Match your symptoms to doctor-recommended prescription in your booklet and take the right meds now and get well faster.
This is not a first aid kit. It's like having an urgent care in your home. It includes doctor-prescribed medications to treat over 39 medical issues like respiratory infections, strep throat, pneumonia, UTIs, and more.
No waiting to see the doctor and no standing in line at the pharmacy. It's right here.
Every home should have at least one medical emergency kit, and here's how to order.
Order online and save $45. Your kit to treat dozens of common and serious illnesses is rushed to your door. Visit urgentcarekit.com/news, promo code NEWS. That's urgentcarekit.com/news, promo code NEWS.
Politics pledging to destroy wokeism and doing it as a tribute to the late Charlie Kirk. And he's looking to unseat 8-term, 84-year-old incumbent Republican Congressman John Carter, who's seeking re-election at 84 in a crowded primary for Texas's reliably red 31st district. And Vince Offer joins us tonight. Hey, Vince, good to see you. It's wild to meet you this way. I want to ask just why you're running for office. I remember the ShamWow. I remember the chop too. What was the chop one you had? The chop, yeah. That was a good one, too. So tell us why you want to get into politics.
Well, I mean, it's a long story, but, I did a skit called Woke Busters. It's a parody on Ghostbusters. I write a lot of skits. Actually, the commercials themselves are about our skits themselves, if you think about it. So I'm good at writing skits, and I did a Woke Buster. It took me 9 months to finish, and it was done the day Charlie passed. And I was like, what a coincidence. I'm like, okay, this is surreal. And then, it's okay. I said, I'll put it out on his birthday. And I did. And then a big tech, Google, YouTube stopped showing it. Didn't show it much. I only got like 500 views a day. Yet the other platforms were getting like 50,000 views a day. So I got millions of views on the other platform, nothing on YouTube and Google. So I'm thinking, this is like discrimination. This is like a black guy going, in the 1940s going on the bus. You sit in the back of the bus. Or a Jewish person in the 30s, go in the alley and sell your product. Because I have comedy is my product, and I'm on YouTube. and I want to show it because that's why they exist, because of us.
Yeah. I mean, you're a great pitch man. I mean, that's a big part of politics. I mean, you might be one of the best I've ever seen. Those infomercials, you just can't stop watching them. Are you self-funding this thing? I assume you made some cash off of those products. You sold the hell out of those chamois.
Yeah, of course I'm self-funding, but next week I'll probably ask for donations.
Yeah.
If you don't mind, But the ShamWow.com. But yeah, I mean, we're going to need we're going to need funds to fight this conglomerate. But one of my big policies is that they need to have open source algorithms, open source code, so we can see what they're doing, because they're suppressing conservative content and comedy that ridicules them. They're really suppressing, like putting it in the alley, not in the town square, but in the dark alley. So that's kind of like discrimination, and it's illegal.
Yeah. I want to ask you one final question. I was actually in Miami the same years you were there, or some of them at least. You faced a little legal trouble. You had a run-in with a prostitute, 2009, never charged. It's going to come up as you debate your way through a crowded primary field. How do you respond to it?
I got a lot more skeletons than that. I know what you're saying. No, I mean, nothing really happened. It was just like I was 20 years ago. I'm not, I used to regret it, but it's like, it put me in the right path. I just stopped I stopped partying like that. It was like not the right thing to do, and I became a better version of myself. Yeah. Well, Miami will do that to you, so you got to get out of that town. I'm not a good partier. I should have hung out with you or something. We'll probably go have dinner or something. And thanks for the compliment for it, man. That made my night. Of course. Rob Schmitt, day, night. I'm going to have a good time tomorrow, too. There you go. Vince Offer, the ShamWow guy. When I heard you were running, I was like, we got to talk to the ShamWow guy. It's good to meet you. Thank you so much. Thank you, Rob. Hope we meet again. Thank you. All right. Good luck to you. All right. Good. Eric Swalwell says he's going to radically improve California. He can't even answer the most basic 90-10 question.
Will you now acknowledge that it is in fact a thing?
I was a prosecutor at Oakland for 7 years.
Get the life back. Okay, we're good. He's breathing. Okay.
When I saw that Ethan was not breathing, I determined that I needed to use something to remove the obstruction from his airway. It's very important for every household to have a life vest.
Everyone should have one in their home. Anything can happen at any moment.
I want my friends and family and people that I serve to know that we have this device to potentially save lives.
Protect your family. Go to lifehack.net.
Go to lifehack.net or call 877-543-3822.
Invest in Ukraine now. Ukraine is rebuilding, innovating, and shaping the future. Because Ukraine is the potential. Kyivstar is Ukraine's leading digital operator. Invests in Ukraine's connectivity, entertainment, ride-hailing, healthcare, and innovation. It's time to think opportunity. It's time to think Ukraine now.
A peace plan for Gaza. For the plan to advance, Hamas must disarm. Instead,
tonight, terrifying images emerging from Gaza. Videos show Hamas-linked gunmen carrying out a public execution as they return to the streets.
Hamas on a rampage, executing Palestinians, bloody crackdown, spreading terror. For freedom, not terror, Hamas must go.
Hello, everyone. It's President Donald J. Trump, and it's Trump time. Check out this red beauty. It's one of my new watches. Wear it proudly on your wrist, and everyone will know exactly what it's for, who it represents. It's really going to be something special. It's for your favorite president. Get your watch today at gettrumpwatches.com. Please make a great gift. It's Trump time.
Have you compared your Medicare plan recently? With eHealth, you can compare Medicare plans side by side for free. So we invited people to give eHealth a try and discover how easy it can be to find your Medicare match.
This is pretty amazing. I can go on a vacation with this money.
I have quite a few prescriptions.
That's why people call us. We're going to compare plans, and I'm going to try to get you as much bang for your buck as possible.
That's great.
This one here covers all your prescriptions, your doctors as well.
Oh, wonderful.
I have a hard time with this.
That's okay. That's what I'm here for. Based on our conversation today, I would highly recommend this plan.
You're so helpful. You don't know.
I'm excited for you, sir. Again, my name is Cham. If you have any other questions, give me a ring.
Thank you very much. Oh my God, that was super easy.
See how your Medicare plan stacks up with the big changes for 2026. Just call this number or get started at ehealth.com. Compare plans that cover your doctors, prescriptions, pharmacy, and budget. And compare plans from the nation's top insurance companies. They pay us to help you. How much do you think you'll be able to save using eHealth?
At least $300 a month.
Would you say you found your Medicare match?
Yes, I did. What Sham did, she explained to me exactly what I needed to know.
Well, I have a surprise for you. Cham, come on out.
Oh my goodness!
It's a pleasure to meet you today, sir. What does it feel like to be face to face?
You helped me out quite a bit.
Call to meet your advisor. They're paid the same no matter which Medicare Advantage plan you choose. Ask them about eHealth Live Advise or get started on your own at eHealth.com. Either way, it's always a free service. See if you could get more for less with eHealth, like these folks did.
The savings are unbelievable.
I could see the costs side by side. eHealth is wonderful. $1,200 savings in my pocket. I was really pleasantly surprised with that.
Call 1-800-708-0234 to compare Medicare plans in your area or visit eHealth.com.
eHealth, your Medicare matchmaker.
Welcome back. Time now for news from the left. Dim-witted Congressman Eric Swalwell is out there making just wild claims that he's going to save California and he's going to help people get their homes rebuilt after those fires, and he's going to do everything amazing. He sounds like every Democrat that's ever run for anything in California. And the truth is, saving that state is an almost impossible task given the legislature and the supermajority of these radical left Democrats. Swalwell just claims he's going to do it all. But the same guy doesn't even have the stones to answer a question from a woman asking him about keeping transgender men out of women's sports locker rooms and bathrooms, something that is like an 80-20 or 90-10 cultural issue in the United States. And the guy who's bold enough to break through all the barriers and fix California can't even answer this question. He's so scared of offending 0.2% of society. Take a listen.
You're on record saying that men in women's locker rooms in sports is a quote, not a thing. Given what's happening on the ground in California, will you now acknowledge that it is in fact a thing?
I was a prosecutor at Oakland for 7 years. And where justice was warranted and mercy was warranted, I showed it.
Are you against men in women's locker rooms and sports? That's all you answer.
I'm telling you, I don't want men harassing you in a women's locker room. That should not happen.
It's happening all around America.
If you want to see the proof, it's right there, of what Swalwell will do if he runs the state of California. He will do absolutely nothing. It will somehow manage to get even worse under this buffoon's leadership if he is allowed to win and be the helm of that state. He can't do anything. He is one of the most incompetent, dopey, weird, smelly guys that Washington has ever produced. He is the absolute bottom of the barrel. And he thinks he has these delusions that he's going to be the governor of California and he's going to make it great. I mean, you can't make it up. Swalwell. Good God. Next up, biological male Jamie Booker now identifies as female, originally won this year's World's Strongest Woman competition in Texas. Yes, a biological man won the World's Strongest Woman competition. The female runner-up, Andrea Thompson, visibly upset by this, walking off stage when Booker was announced. Take a look and watch what she says as she gets off the stage. Good for her. Says it's BS. Walks off the stage as the man smiles. Well, the good news is that the winner, Booker, has now been stripped of his title after organizers claimed that he never told them that she was born a man. Organizers posting on Instagram an explanation saying that they didn't really know, and it appears an athlete who's biological male now identifies as female. Well, if they didn't know, how did her competition know? Because she certainly knew. All right, next up, it appears Trump is now just telling movie studios to make movies that he wants to see, which is hilarious. Semaphore with an exclusive on how Trump is trying to remake American culture, starting with his favorite buddy cop franchise. Larry Ellison, one of the most prominent Trump supporters and financial supporters on the cusp of taking control of Warner Brothers. The president offering some creative input for upcoming projects, saying he wants to go back to raucous comedies and action movies of the late 80s and 90s. A person directly familiar with the conversations, the president has discussed, personally pressed the Paramount owner to revive another franchise from Brett Ratner, the director. He wants another Rush Hour. He wants Jackie Chan to come back. What's the guy's name? Jackie Chan. Chris Tucker and Jackie Chan right there. He wants another Rush Hour movie. So Trump's just telling, hey, why don't you guys make another one of those? That was a good movie. And of course, the studio's saying, well, it's the president. Yeah, all right, we'll try to make it. Finally, Trump doing the pardoning of the turkeys today, takes a shot at J.D. Pritzker. Hilarious.
I'm not going to tell my Pritzker joke. They have a very cute little joke, Some speechwriter wrote some joke about his weight. But I would never want to talk about his weight. I don't talk about people being fat. I refuse to talk about the fact that he's a fat slob. I don't mention it.
We'll have more from the pardons up next after the break. Stay tuned.
You know Rob Finnerty. He's smart, bold, and stands strong for your values. Rob is fighting for you. Watch Finnerty weeknights only on Newsmax.
Hey, I'm Mike Hammond from Signal Relief. You know the holidays are meant to be about family, laughter, and taking things slow. But when you're in pain, it's hard to enjoy any of it. I know because my back has made life difficult for me. But that's why I love the Signal Relief patch. It helped me enjoy the holidays again. It helped me enjoy my family again. I've given this patch as a gift to friends, family, and even strangers in pain because I know it works. In a recent study, over 85% of people felt relief. It really doesn't matter where you hurt because the patch works, and it comes with a money-back guarantee. For a limited time, we're bringing back our largest discount ever, 50% off. So get a Signal Relief patch today. Trust me when I tell you, the patch works.
My heart has experienced life-changing wins, losses, and countless miles. To keep living at my speed, I trust Cunol CoQ10. CoQ10 is the #1 cardiologist-recommended supplement for heart health. Cunol, the brand I trust.
Your parents have given you some amazing gifts. Celebrate the ones you inherited with Ancestry DNA. Explore the detailed family roots, cultures, and traits that shaped who you are today for only $29.
Why spend weeks and overpay for stone when you can get the same high-end look in just hours with GenStone? These easy-to-install GenStone panels give your home the look of real stone for about half the cost.
GenStone product I find very versatile, very affordable, very clean install to get the same finished look of a stone product. I think it's a fantastic product, and I don't see us going back to the traditional stone method anytime soon.
And now with the GenStone Visualizer, you can upload a photo of your home and instantly see how GenStone would enhance your home. Choose your perfect color and bring your vision to life, just like this project that started in the Visualizer and finished with a stunning transformation. Text color to 59583 to try out the Visualizer right now. Once you have your design, click Price Your Project, and our pros will tell you how much GenStone you need and even guide you or your installer through your project. Text color to 59583 to see GenStone on your home today.
Finally tonight, the president hosting the annual turkey pardon at the White House. This is always something that's fun. Gobble and Waddle, the names of the turkey's pardon today. That's Gobble right there. Waddle at the same time was in the briefing room. I don't know if they don't get along or what, but they were separated today. Trump also joking he would be repardoning the president's pardons from last year because Biden pardoned Peach and Blossom last year with the auto pen. Trump says that's null and void. Take a listen.
A man named Sleepy Joe Biden, he used an auto pen last year for the turkey's pardon, as are the pardons of about every other person that was pardoned other than Where's Hunter. But they're hereby null and void. The turkeys known as Peach and Blossom last year, and I am officially pardoning them, and they will not be served for Thanksgiving dinner.
They will not be served for By the way, those Rob, those are some bougie turkeys. I mean, the all-white turkey. That's not the way turkeys look. I don't know how they manipulated the genes on those things to
Not-
give us these beautiful white turkeys.
Yeah, not in my neck of the woods,
No,
nape of the way.
turkeys are ugly.
Where I am. No, they're like the little black things that come around this time of year, and you see them, and you're like, oh, can I eat that? Looks kind of gamey. These look like well-fed, healthy, voluptuous birds with the most unoriginal names ever.
And people,
what was it? Gobble?
Gobble and waddle. And people think that they're walking birds. I have seen a turkey fly over my house.
I
They
don't
can
know
fly.
about that.
No, if they get into a pinch and they get really scared,
No,
like a
no,
deer can
no.
jump higher.
They're
I've
like-
seen one fly 30, 40 feet.
They're
in the
like
air.
emus. They don't fly.
Dude, they
right?
fly. I watched it happen.
So, like,
I
if a
chased one
coyote
and it
chases
flew.
them, they can kind of get off the ground, but they can't. Like, that thing's flying, Rob? Come on.
That I swear on my life, I've watched a turkey fly 30, 40 feet in the air.
Wow. Wow.
Yeah, I mean,
All
they
right.
can't go forever, but they come down. But if they're scared, those things start going. And they're
Yes, yes. All right, Rob, good to see you tonight.
See you
Thank you for that. Minute of my show just flew away with the turkey right there.